Welcome back, everyone. Next, we will have the Engineering Systems and Design degree program sharing. Did you know that our ESD graduates are most attractive to employers from banks, consultancy firms, and businesses? Listen in to find out more. Now, please welcome our head of pillar for ESD, Professor Peter Jackson, together with our industry partners, current ESD students, and alumni.
In online shopping, how long are you willing to wait for a piece of apparel? 3 weeks? 3 days? 3 hours? Maybe you need it tonight or tomorrow night. Engineering Systems and Design is an interdisciplinary program that integrates design science, data science, decision science, operations analysis, finance, and economics. Optimization is at the core of what we do in ESD. It's fundamental to so many activities. You probably don't even realize how often you're using optimization. Well, top on everyone's mind right now is the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the issues that we're facing is how do we do vaccination? We have to inoculate millions of people in a very short amount of time. But it also has to match the supply from the pharmaceutical companies. The other thing COVID-19 has enabled us to see is the transformation of work. So many of us have been working from home or studying from home that we understand that the world has suddenly changed in how work is done and how technology is now an integral part of how we do our work. Depending on their interest, students can specialize in supply chain, finance, urban systems such as aviation and water supply, or generally business analytics. ESD graduates are highly sought after. We have graduates in consulting companies like Accenture and Ernst & Young, e-commerce companies, Shopee and Lazada, as well as Changi Airport Group and LTA. What I love about the ESD program is watching the transformation that takes place in our students. They become resilient, independent, and confident. We really are creating a new generation of engineers and analysts who can design, analyze, and optimize for a better world. Why should you come to ESD? It changes the way you look at the world. It is intellectually stimulating. It equips you with practical tools to change the world, and it is deeply satisfying. Hello, I'm Peter Jackson, head of the Engineering Systems and Design pillar at the Singapore University of Technology and Design. If you want to design, analyze, and optimize for a better world, come join us. All right, welcome. My name is Peter Jackson, and I'm head of the Engineering Systems and Design pillar. I came to Singapore in 2016, excited to join SUTD because I have a passion for design and technology like the other faculty that have been attracted to this university. So the tagline that you've heard me repeat in the video is design, analyze, and optimize. We try to cover all three of those aspects in our curriculum. I won't try to explain engineering systems. If you think of an airport or a hospital or a factory, these are all engineering systems with interacting components, people and processes that all have to work together. So understanding how those things work and how you can contribute to them, it leads to what I called a satisfying career in the video. Many of our students are attracted to ESD because of the word business analytics. That's sort of the hot phrase, and it describes well what we do. We look at business processes or operational systems analyze them, and try to make improvements. Data will be fundamental to that. So as a pillar, we integrate data science, design being how you structure problems and find solutions to them. Decision science, which is how do you make decisions, make trade-offs, how do you calculate those trade-offs, how do you search a design space, and how do you handle uncertainty, how do you do risk management. These are all tools that are in the domain of ESD. In addition to that, we have the operational analysis. How does work flow? How does product flow? How does information flow in an organization? And how can you improve that? And finally, we would be the pillar that covers finance and economics. Many of our students proceed into the finance world based on a more engineering background rather than a business background. Our curriculum is, the core classes are listed here, and I focus a great deal on the core classes. I think of those as our crown jewels because these are the courses that change the way you think. I remember when I was a student many years ago and I took my first course in operations research, I felt as if my brain was being rewired. That I didn't think of the world in those terms, and at the end I was tremendously excited by the possibilities of that way of thinking. So our students learn, they call it the ESD mindset, but it's this way of approaching problems in a highly analytical way that leads to solutions and becomes very satisfying. All of these core classes lead to focus tracks. But a key thing in our curriculum is the projects. And when you come into term 4, so you completed the common 3-semester program at SUTD, when you enter into term 4, data and business analytics, or one of the first courses you take is data and business analytics, we immediately pair you up into teams of about 4 students. We already have a company lined up for you to work with. The company has a problem statement to give to you and some data. And then you're on your, we help you, but you have to suddenly, over the course of that semester, work up a solution for that company. So that kind of intense challenge that we give you at the beginning really shapes our students, and it's why employers find them to be self-reliant. Because they've learned to tackle problems from the very beginning. So we have projects in every semester, and in some cases, the projects combine 2 courses in one, so you get to see the interplay between the different disciplines. So lots of project experience that you get here. We have a very diverse faculty. So if you look, there are quite a few nationalities. I'm originally Canadian, so you'll have to learn a Canadian accent when you come to my classes. But we have many other different accents you'll have to learn. But you'll look also, you see the range of universities these folks have come from. They are all top quality faculty members. And our graduates go on and are quite successful. If you look at the left column here, the leftmost column, you'll see some graduates from 2015, 2016. So they've been out in the working world for some years, and they've risen to leadership positions. So you'll notice that in their job titles. So typically, a typical path would be you begin as an analyst or a management trainee or a business trainee. There's lots of different job titles that our students get. But after a time, you demonstrate your ability to understand and lead and make decisions and guide organizations in their processes. If you look at the other graduates, you'll see a range of companies, Accenture, Shopee, so there's e-commerce companies, there's finance companies, there's government agencies, there's transportation companies or transportation organizations, there's engineering organizations like Urbana Jurong, and
let's see, did I miss anyone? Oh, and some entrepreneurs as well. So some of our graduates have formed their own companies. They have a passion for a particular field, and they go and bring that vision into reality. And I'm listing here many of the companies that hire our graduates, and you'll see it covers quite a diversity. So you're not learning a particular industry when you come to ESD. You're learning a set of skills that apply generally across a broad set of industries. So it's those skills that are transferable. So if you were wanting to become a petroleum engineer, that's a very narrow field, and you would go to a university that offers the depth in petroleum engineering. But by coming to ESD, you learn a breadth of skills that apply to petroleum companies as well as to e-commerce companies and so on. So what I like to emphasize, students will be wondering, what about computer science versus ESD, a computer science degree versus a degree in our field, engineering systems. And I like to emphasize that we are preparing students for client-facing careers. In other words, preparing students to work with clients, understand what the client's problem is, design. You have to design the problem. How do you tease apart the different aspects of that? And then what solutions can you bring together? Maybe it's off-the-shelf software that you can use. Maybe it's some analysis that you have to conduct. But how do you create a solution for a client and pull all of those things together? So it takes a lot more teamwork, a lot more design, a lot more integration that our students are prepared to tackle. So that's why you see these types of job titles with our students as opposed to more technical titles that you would get if you were a programmer, if you were heading for computer science and had more of a technology-focused path. You'll also see that our placement of students has been very good, and they get good salaries. So the parents here can relax on that score. And about 10% of our students go on to graduate school, and they get admitted to top universities around the world. So the preparation you get here is certainly competitive with other universities around the world, and you can go to master's and PhD programs from here. In fact, before I came to SUTD, I was at Cornell University, and I met an SUTD student there, and I said, "How are you managing in our curriculum at Cornell?" And the student said, "Oh, it's not too bad. I've seen it all before." So she was very well prepared for our starting courses at Cornell, so I was impressed. So at this point, we're very pleased to have a group of panelists here. We have two industry representatives, one graduate from our program, and one student who's still in the program but is working as an intern. So allow me to introduce, to my immediate left is Jocelyn Tay, who is the senior manager at the Singapore Manufacturing Federation. So this is an association of something like 5,000 different manufacturing entities in Singapore, and they range from very small organizations to large multinational corporations. And she's been working with Emily. Emily is a senior now in ESD, and Emily is an intern with the Singapore Manufacturing Federation. I'm also very pleased to have Vincent Tan here. He's with Google Cloud and in charge of the customer engineering, so working with customers to understand what their needs are and delivering solutions to those, delivering technology solutions to those customers. And he's here together with Mirabel Takaman, who graduated, just recently graduated, so she's had to gear up on all of the Google Cloud technology, but is, I think, having success within that environment, again, in the customer engineering side, customer support. So with that, I'd like to ask a few questions to our industry panelists. I'll start with Jocelyn. But one of the things I'm aware of is how much business has changed. If you remember, I talked about how work is fundamentally changing in the video. We all experience it. Students are studying from home. I'm working from home quite a bit in the past 2 years. So work has changed, and so that means that when you go to hire people, you're going to be looking perhaps for different skill sets than you may have, or different abilities than you may have looked at in prior years. So Jocelyn, I wonder if you could reflect on that challenge, or what is it that you're looking for, or that you find is important now in graduates?
Thanks, Professor Jackson. So the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, or SMF for short, is a members-based organization. And during COVID, the way our members operated has changed. In the past, we were able to visit them, to organize factory visits and also overseas trade missions. But now we are not able to do so, due to SMM or even travel restrictions. So we need to be comfortable with remote collaboration, such as having virtual meetings, organizing virtual trade fairs. Some of our members are advanced in terms of technology, but for some, they are lagging behind. We need to help them. And because of these, right, other than technical skills, our staff need to have soft skills, such as adaptability and people skills, because we want to, be able to manage this in this new normal, to be able to provide the same level of service as pre-COVID to our valuable members.
Thank you. Vincent, maybe you could respond. What are the challenges now in your business from COVID?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Prof. So I agree to what Jocelyn said. So most of the skills right now, there is the collaboration online, right? Having virtual meetings with our customers to help them through the virtual meetings. Because in the past we used to be able to meet customers, but right now, because of COVID, we can't really do that anymore. So having the skills to being able to influence customers online, that's one of the things that we're looking at. And on top of that, right, I think what we are seeing is a lot of businesses actually affected by COVID, right? And one of the things that we do every day is to see how we can really help them to digitize, right, their businesses, help them transform through this COVID. So that's actually one of the things that we are also doing right now, and every day actually. So, yeah.
Oh, so it's a business opportunity that there's so much disruption that you can bring digital solutions to bear on them. Good. Before I turn to Mirabel and Emily, let me open up one other topic, which is operational analysis. So we teach students about understanding manufacturing processes, business processes, flow of people, information, and understanding the business context of questions, and how to analyze data for that purpose and recommend decisions. Perhaps you could speak to, is it valuable when you hire somebody that they have that kind of background or experience? I'll again start with Jocelyn.
Yeah, I think be it for the manufacturing industry or a trade association, these skills are important and relevant. I would like to cite an example. Emily was given a task. She was given a problem statement for one of our associated services. She was able to identify the key issues by analyzing the operational processes, and she created some workflow diagrams and proposed some suggestions on how to improve it. She was also given an opportunity to present all these suggestions to our head of departments. And they posed some difficult questions to her, and she was able to answer them well. Yeah, good job to her.
Great, thank you. Vincent, same question to you. Is it valuable for Google Cloud, for your employees working with customers to have an understanding of business processes and operational analysis?
Yeah, definitely do, right? So, Google is a very data-driven company. A lot of things that we do is always backed by data, right? So, for example, when we want to help customers, first of all, we need to understand their business. And how we understand their business is through their revenues, through their business processes, right? How many transactions they do per day, how many deliveries they do per day. So these are the kinds of the data that we look for in order to be able to help them better, right? So we know we are able to pinpoint certain areas that, hey, during COVID, certain things spike. Maybe we should do something to be able to scale the systems or something along these lines, right? And that's what I think, being able to understand the data and also get insights from the data is super important to be able to help our customers. Right?
Okay, so finding insights in data. So the data is not knowledge. You have to pull the knowledge or the insights out. Let me turn to Mirabel and Emily. Mirabel, if you could reflect, you've had to go through COVID as a student, and we've had a mix of online and physical classes, and you've had to do projects that are much more challenging because you're not physically in a room sometimes with your colleagues, with your student colleagues. So what did you pick up from that experience that you see as transferable to what you're doing now in Google Cloud?
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Prof. I actually did my final year capstone in the middle of the pandemic, so it was at a time where it was still quite ambiguous, and there were times when we have to come to class, we get to meet people, and then suddenly we have to work from home and do the projects there. So I guess some skills that I learned is really to make use of like online collaborative tools. For example, documents, video calls, tracking tasks online, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Because previously we could meet our classmates, we could use whiteboards, we can keep track of everything on the whiteboard, and now that is no longer possible. So using these tools actually help to make sure like the project management, it still goes on. And even in work now, I use a lot of these collaborative tools. It's actually like one of my favorite parts of work. Yeah, so working on Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, I think those are like really transferable to my work now.
Great. Emily, same question. So from your experience on doing projects as a student, do you find those transferable over to what you're doing in industry?
Yeah, so I agree with Mirabel that using online collaborative tools is really important because when we work online, it's less visible to see like what your teammates and your group mates are doing. So yeah, and all our projects are opportunity to explore the different collaborative tools online. So not only Google, for my capstone now we're using Notion. It's also an online workspace tool. So yeah, you get the opportunity to explore all these different tools because when you go out to the industry, you don't really know what your company will be using. So this is a good time to learn these different technologies, yeah. And also I feel that communication is really important. So I think that is one soft skill that is also transferable when you go to the industry. It's really important to keep your teammates updated of what you're doing, and yeah.
Great. I try to get students and graduates to talk about the projects that they did here. And so if you can, Mirabel, if you can think back to a project, one of the many projects you worked on, what was memorable? What lesson or success did you walk away, or even an important failure? Something that you could explain what the problem was to the folks here.
Yeah, Yeah, so I actually worked on lots of projects in my time in SUTD, but I think one of the most memorable ones was the data and business analytics project that I worked on. Yeah, I think in the video, Prof. Peter Jackson mentioned it. So as a new student in ESD, I've just joined in my first term. I got to work with a team of 4 other students and also our industry partner. So we work with a contract manufacturing company who was having some issues with late deliveries. And they had the data, but they didn't know how to extract the insights from the data. So, I mean, being dropped like straight into this client-facing project, it was quite a challenge at the beginning, but it was a great learning opportunity as well. So from this, I got to learn a lot of technical skills. I learned to learn quickly and to learn independently because, we went in not having these skills, for example, for Power BI, which is a data visualization tool, and it was something that the company wanted us to use to help them build dashboards. We also got to learn about the data analytics skills using R, and also not just the technical skills. I think one of my biggest takeaway from that project was actually soft skills in terms of asking why and finding out the root cause of the problem. Because we went in with a problem, the client had an idea of how they wanted it solved, but by asking why, we managed to find like better ways to help them solve the problem. So yeah, that's something that really resonated with me and I've kept till today. And in fact, that's actually one of the reasons why I pursued like this particular career path as a customer engineer.
As a professor and an instructor, I wrestle with how do you teach some of these things, and you come back to the realization that students have to experience it for themselves. I can't give a lecture on any of these kinds of topics, but by throwing students into the deep end of the pool, they do start to learn and pick up these kinds of takeaways. So that's exciting to see that happen. So that's the transformation that I talk about. That's so pleasurable as a faculty member. Emily, is there a project that you can relate to that?
So one of the projects I'd like to share about was from the Engineering Systems and Architecture course, which is actually taught by Professor Peter Jackson. So in this course, we learned some data manipulation and how to manage data in a database. And for our project, we had to build a simple web application in using R, a package called RShiny. Yeah. So at this point in time, I wasn't really familiar with R yet. I was still a beginner, and I had never done anything like this, build an application, and it was really challenging. But we have a lot of support from our faculty, and it was a lot of long hours went into this project. And it was also difficult to manage because there were different parts of the project. For example, we had to design the database, design the UI, and then finally write the code. And splitting the code up for different members in your team was really difficult because in the end, it all had to come together. So yeah, there were many challenges along the way. But when you finally complete the project and your code runs and everything looks nice, it's really, really satisfying. So yeah, I like this project a lot.
Okay, great. I'm always nervous giving out those assignments, but it's great fun, and the creativity that students display in these projects is really marvelous. If I could come back to Vincent and Jocelyn, what is there? You've had experience now with SUTD students. Do you notice something different about these students than graduates of other programs? Are there special traits to SUTD students or that you could talk about that you really value? Jocelyn, perhaps?
Actually, this is the first time I'm working with an SUTD, ESD student. So I would like to share about my experience with Emily. I think that she has a good grasp of the language, and she has logical thinking skills. So when we tell her to do ABC, she already knows the way forward. She knows what to do next. And the other thing that I noticed is that she has good time management skills. bearing in mind that she's in her final year of studies and she's still working with the SMF. So I think SUTD has done a great job, in preparing her for the working world.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Emily is doing her an internship at the same time as completing her capstone, so that's a lot of time management that she's able to accomplish. Vincent, something that you notice in our graduates, please.
Yeah, just one thing is, when they joined, I think when Mirabel joined, I was very happy to see that she's able to learn things really quickly, grabs the technology really quickly. Like, for example, just in the team for 5 months, she already got like 4 certifications. Yeah, that was so quick, right? And I really like how they are so independent and being able to learn technical stuff and also relate it to the business. Because one of the struggles or the challenge is really to map the technology to business. So being able to do that with the business knowledge and the technical knowledge, that's a very good combination. So that's what I really appreciate about.
Okay. Great, thank you. I think you've alluded to it, each of you, but let's emphasize the data and business analytics. We prepare our students in particular with those kinds of skills, statistical and machine learning, are tools that we teach, database management, database design. These are all tools that they have in their kit bag when they come to you. Perhaps you could indicate why these particular skills are important in today's industry. Maybe Vincent, it'll be easier for you because that's your business. in many. Start with you.
Yeah, I think having the machine learning and data skills is really important and super helpful to be able to help our customers. Without that, right, the skills, we do not have that, then it's super hard for us to understand like how we can help them and how do we measure the impact, right? So with the skills,
you were giving an example earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could.
So for example, the what Mirabel has done is one of the customers that she was helping with on the inventory management, inventory optimization, right? So example is, one of the logistics company, before COVID, the data was not really showing what the data we have for now. Like, COVID is a very different situation. So with the change, right, with COVID, they detected actually there was a difference, right, because the model doesn't work anymore. So what Mirabel is doing is to actually help them with creating a new model, right, on our platform and see how we can use this model to help them through this COVID, right? So this is one of the things that I think, having the machine learning model skills and the data skills is really important, right?
So it was a logistics company that was facing a spike in demand, so the old data was no longer helpful, and so you needed more adaptive techniques, or the company needed more adaptive techniques to be able to predict demand and manage inventory.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Jocelyn, how might it relate in your environment?
I think these skills are important as we move towards Industry 4.0, where factories are expected to evolve into self-running factories, by embracing automation, cloud, and Internet of Things. Big data and analytics, are often used in manufacturing, to help them improve their quality, to reduce cost, to reduce waste, and also to optimize their supply chain. So as a members federation, we need to know all this so that we can better advise them.
Great. Now, many students are anxious about going for job interviews. As someone who interviews and hires people, what are you looking for in a job interview? This is sort of general advice, not particular to SUTD. But are there particular attributes you look for a candidate when you're having an interview with them? I guess try Jocelyn first.
I think we look beyond grades. We look for the ability to be able to interact with others, to have analytical skills, to be able to communicate with people, and outgoing and a can-do persona.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you. Vincent?
Yeah, I think apart from the technical skills, we also look at soft skills and the problem-solving skills, right? How do you solve a problem if given to you, right? How would you solve it? So we look at that, and also on the soft skills, how do you interact with the customers, right? And yeah, so these are the key important skills that we look at.
And one last question before we open it up. As I indicated, many of our graduates start in analyst positions, but you see after a few years, many of them have graduated to leadership, higher level positions within organizations. Within your organization, is there a pathway from an analyst position to either technical leadership or managerial leadership? Maybe Vincent first.
Yeah, I think there's always like two paths. Like one is being a specialist, where you can really focus in one industry or one area. For example, technological area like data, machine learning, infrastructure, for example. And then the other path is more like a people management. So if you want to pursue that, that's also possible. So there's actually two paths. So yeah, these are the two paths that we have.
Okay, great. Jocelyn, similar question. Your organization's a bit different, but would there be pathways for Emily down the road? Well, don't think of her in particular, but.
Yeah, so any pathway to leadership in a large organization would require, I would say that it would not be deliberate. So an individual must show the willingness, and the hunger to carry extra responsibility and to be able to deliver them, to be in a leadership position. Yeah.
Great.
But I can foresee that, Emily will be able to do that. In fact, we've already offered her a job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay. I
a
didn't
job is
want to
waiting
bring
for
that
her.
up, but
A career.
okay.
Yeah.
Then, so Emily, you have some possibilities ahead of you. I'd like to open it up to questions here. If you use the, I've forgotten the name of the app that we're using here. Event X. Event X is available here for you to post questions. I think we have a couple here. Let's see what I can come up with. One of the questions is, what kind of internships can ESD students look forward to, and with which companies? We have what we call an ESD alliance, where we are working with companies and establishing a relationship with them, where they can publish their internship opportunities directly to our undergraduate students, publish their job offers or their job openings directly to ESD students. And then we also look for projects. The company is committed to providing projects, such as to our data and business analytics course, so that students get these live, real experiences as part of the curriculum. We have on the order of 10 companies that are committed at this point, and we continue to grow that number. Certainly, there are lots more internships available than just with those 10 companies, but we have signed agreements with those companies. So these companies range, again, there's diversity there. There are consulting companies, there are technology companies, there are e-commerce companies, and so on. So the opportunities are certainly broad for internships, and our students don't seem to have any difficulty getting the internships. Then another question is, does the ESD program at SUTD focus a lot on software engineering rather than hardware engineering, like designing devices and improving upon them? I wouldn't characterize what we do as software engineering. So we're certainly not a hardware. This is EPD, engineering product development, would be the place you would, the program you would select if you are a device person, a hardware person. You like to build things with your hands and get them to do marvelous things. And software engineering is largely what you would study in ISTD, the Computer Science and Design program. There's a branch within CSD that focuses on developing large software systems, all the rigor that goes into creating fail-safe, secure systems. That's not the focus of ESD. The focus in ESD is more on the higher level problems that people are faced with, the decision problems, the strategic problems, the risk management problems. Those are questions for which you need data to answer those questions, and it's that type of engineering that we're preparing our students to tackle. So I wouldn't call it software engineering. And I'm not, let's see. Can students share more about any overseas programs they have done? Well, unfortunately, I think, I don't think we've had, for the past year and a half, we haven't been able to do overseas. But Mirabelle, you have any comment on overseas opportunities?
Yeah, I was actually lucky to have gone overseas in 2019.
Ah,
in a summer
2019.
program. Yeah, right before like all the travel restrictions and all that. I got to go to Stanford University for my summer program, where I learned like economics, I learned algorithms, and yeah, I was honestly really lucky because the last 2 years we haven't been able to go back. But I mean, in terms of overseas opportunities, it was something that was readily available for us, and also a chance to learn about other people's cultures, because I got to meet students from different countries while I was there, and also related back to the ESD curriculum. For example, in algorithms, we did things like optimization, which we learned even further here in ESD after we came back. Yeah, so I mean, it was a great opportunity for me.
Okay, good. So you squeezed in under the wire there. Singapore is opening up again now to overseas programs, and we had a vibrant overseas exchange program. Dozens of universities, top universities around the world will exchange with us. So that will get going again, hopefully in the very near future. Emily, were you able to do an exchange? No, okay. So that's, the graduating class right now had a different experience. Let's see, how is the study culture in ESD? Is it more collaboration and more project, or I guess the alternative would be highly individual work? Maybe Emily, you're still in the middle of it, so how would you call the study culture in SUTD?
I think for ESD, as Professor Peter Jackson shared earlier, there's a lot of projects. So I think majority of our courses are project-based and collaborative. And I think ESD, or even SUTD as a whole, I think the culture is really collaborative, and everyone tries to help each other. So yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. As an instructor, I'll put maybe 30% on project, the grade, 30% of the grade on project. Some courses maybe 40%. So typically a midterm would be 20% of your grade, the final 20% of the grade, and then a significant project on top of that, and homework and participation. So it's spread out. It's a multi-dimensional grade that you get. And there's the SUTD culture. When you have the common curriculum, you form, it should be the students talking about this, but Mirabelle, talk about how you form study groups and so on in your freshman year, and that seems to last throughout the program.
Yeah, so in freshman year, we got to be in the same class. We got to stay in the hostel together. Yeah, so even before like big exams, we would have study sessions in the class. And it's not just us within the classroom. We have TAs who will actually come down to help us to hold revision sessions. And these are the people that, at least for me, I kept in touch with throughout my entire university life. And even when we're studying different things, it was quite interesting to just learn about a bit about what each other are learning, see like what each other is passionate about, and sometimes we do have overlapping lessons. So I mean, it's just a great community to study with. Yeah.
Great. And I think you in Capstone, do you sometimes come back and meet the same students that you were working with in Freshmore? Is that a possibility?
Yes, I actually have friends who created their capstone groups in Freshmore. Yeah, once they knew which pillars they wanted to go to, so they kept in touch because we could form our own groups. For me, I wasn't able to meet any of my Freshmore classmates, but I did meet friends in other pillars, and also even those who I did my internship with. So yeah, it's quite a close-knit community.
Do I have time for one more question? What kind of student traits are needed if considering going into ESD? I think if you like mathematics and the ability to apply math to real-world problems, if that excites you, then ESD is a great match because mathematics is at the core of what we do. We certainly, if you have some difficulty with mathematics, you can still get through the ESD program, so it's not essential. But if these kinds of puzzles and planning and organizing activities are what thrill you, this ESD would be a good match, is what I could say. But in general, if you, think back to what you enjoyed doing as a child. When I was a child, I didn't build things, but I simulated war games and, moving troops around and moving resources and planning strategies. That's what I enjoyed as a kid. So if that, reorganizing furniture or things. So if that's the sort of mentality you have, you'd probably resonate well with ESD. So I think let's close at this point. I'd like to thank our panelists for coming. If there could be some applause here, we'd appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, speakers. In just another 10 minutes, we will have a sharing about the Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences cluster.